I'm going to start this part. Welcome everyone for this webinar on BRM market trends and experience sharing. I hope it's good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is specifically focused on Asia Pacific time zone. And I'm glad that we are already having about 11 participants and we are expecting close to about 30 people to join in. So welcome everyone, and you can just make your introduction on the window of your chat about yourself, but we'll get to this webinar now. Now, there's a couple of ways that we will kind of start this webinar moving forward. Our scope of this agenda today is to look at the market trends and experience sharing. A lot of people who have joined in this particular webinar are people who are, yes, TCV, you have any question? Okay.
You carry on, Suresh, carry on.
Sorry, GP, I wrongly clicked something. No problem, please carry on. Sorry.
We're going to talk today about market trends and experience sharing. When I say experience sharing, we from TaUB Solutions, and we also have a lot of practitioners and also people across different verticals and organizations that we have dealt with have joined today. So I'm extremely happy and privileged to start this session today. This webinar is associated with BRM Week, associated with Business Relationship Management Institute. So BRM Institute has turned 7 years, 7th birthday yesterday. And so I'm really thrilled to be a regional ambassador and share some perspectives today on some of the topics. I want to make this more interactive. So it will be a lot of Q&A. So I want this Q&A to be more vocal. So you will not, don't put your questions on the chat window. It's just more of introduction, but mostly come there and talk over. This is being recorded, so we will talk about that as well. About myself, I'm the Managing Director of TaUB Solutions and Principal Consultant with TaUB Solutions. I'm also the Regional Leader for Asia Pacific, and I'm very privileged to be here amidst today for sharing some perspectives, right? So the agenda for today is to introduce you all to the BRM Week. We're going to kind of talking about the top 20 BRMs of 2020. We have someone special here as well, whom we will introduce. But it's about recognition that the BRM Institute has done worldwide that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the BRM Benchmarking Report. Please note that the BRM Benchmarking Report is from 2019. And there is another benchmarking report of 2020 coming up tomorrow. So prior to that, I want you to give you an insights of the last year's report. And over the years, like we have been into BRM for the last 4 years now. We have actually had a lot of interactions with people, from the client partners, across verticals, and we see some of the global trends and challenges. That will be our starting point for Q&A, okay? And the intent is we will spend about 30 minutes we'll spend 30 minutes on the BRM benchmarking and what is BRM and trends, but we'll spend the rest of the Q&A for all of you, right? So feel free to ask questions. As I said, this has to be more informal in nature, and so that we get more value of the sessions. And based on how this goes, we can kind of plan repetitive sessions in probably quarterly or bi-monthly or whatever, depending on what suits you, okay? Before I start, I hope everybody is able to see my screen, able to hear well, and able to follow me on this track so far.
Yes, thank you. Yep. Hello, everyone.
Hey, good.
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So welcome to the BRM Week. So just to give you, for people who do not know about BRM Week is a week of from 9th of February to 15th of February. So the whole week we have certain activities that we plan as part of BRM Institute to share different things. So this could be with existing BRMs, practitioners, your business partners, your clients, whoever it may be, to kind of create awareness, right? Yesterday we had the BRM Institute Unplugged, so I was fortunate enough to be one of the panelists, along with Peter Nicole, Peter Lindsay, Aaron Monroe, Emra. So what we have seen now is we are on 13th. So first of all the women BRMs here, a huge shout out to you, because February 13th is celebrating women in BRM by sharing an inspirational quote from a strong female leader, part of it. So I definitely welcome all women leaders. We have a lot of women leaders in this group. So I really think that your contribution is much appreciated. Tomorrow we are going to have the BRM Institute's BRM Benchmarking Report. And as I said, this is a 2020 report that you will be able to absorb. What we are currently doing is, as a part of a thing, is sharing the 2019 report. Okay, and there's a lot of communities available. So if you want to volunteer in terms of being the community, please get involved. And I'm going to have a section on resources, which will tell you where you can get more knowledge, more resources in terms of webinar, events, and so on and so forth. Okay. So with that, let me kind of get into the next aspect today. Recently, a couple of days back, BRM Institute released the top BRMs of 2020. And this is a recognition for practicing BRMs who have done hard work, who have done and created a differentiator within their own business partner ecosystem and also as an organization. So it doesn't matter whether it's internal or external. It's about building this capability and becoming that strategic partners. And every year, we get identified people across different spectrums, different verticals. And this year is pretty unique because out of the 20 BRMs that they have identified for 2020, there are 3 BRMs who are of Asia Pacific. So I'm pretty glad as an Asia Pacific regional ambassador to share those people. I want everyone to give a sense of kudos and appreciation for people. We have one of them among us today. So let me open the people. The first person is Beatrice, the regional business partner for APAC. She's here. Beatrice, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hello everyone. I'm very happy to be with you today during this webinar. So as you can see, so my name is Beatrice. I'm actually based in Singapore, and I work for the first company, the biggest company that makes fragrances and flavors for FMCG agro companies. So basically, it's the leader of this, and I'm actually the regional business partner. That's the name I have here for IT towards the regional business here. And yeah, I've been working for the same company for many years, and I've been now in Asia for the last 3 years.
Yeah, and Beatrice is a staunch believer. It's a practitioner, and I had the good fortune of working with her during the CBRM. So I would definitely recommend you to stay connected with this group. She has a lot to offer, and probably she will provide some more insights on a Q&A. Okay, thanks, Beatrice.
Thank you.
We have second person, Malini, Ganesh, a good friend of mine and a fellow BRM podcast. She's based out of Australia, a diehard practitioner and coach. And it's such a privilege to be associated with her. I have known her for the last 4 years, ever since I met her in 2016 in Sydney. So she will tell you all the difficult things that a BRM does in moving forward on that. Last but not the least, my fellow regional ambassador for India, Avinash Singh, is the country manager and principal consultant. Myself, Avinash, Malini, as well as Beatrice have done some podcasts. So I would strongly recommend that we have something called as a BRM Brown Bag podcast, where we interview practitioners to tell their experience journey, because it is not that it's a rosy picture. We all have our own wounds and bullets that they're pierced in. So we should be happy enough to share those information. So let's give a round of applause to everyone who has made this to the top 20 BRMs. You make us all so proud. And we really think that we get all inspired by your contributions. Yeah. So we go on to the next topic, which is the BRM Benchmarking Report. And this is released by the BRM Institute. Today, for this report, for the next report, TaUB Solutions is sponsoring for the benchmarking report as well as for the BRM Connect conferences. So there's a good amount of data for us to understand what different BRMs across worldwide are doing and where are they representing. Is it on financial services? Is it on telecom industry? A lot of people have been asking questions to me, is BRM only focusing on IT? Or do you have people from other functions depart? So this gives you a little bit of snapshot of what BRMs are currently doing, right? So if you look at the respondents from the last time, we had respondents from 30 different countries. There were top five industries, okay? And I'm sure that will continue to be top five industries this year as well. The 51% of all is what we are talking about. So we have government, military. So if you look at in the United States, we have a lot of federal governments embracing on BRM. We have a lot more happening in the healthcare. We also saw ourselves in terms of clinical. Peter Nicole, who's the MBRM, is also from pharma. We are seeing a lot in higher ed. So if you look at Leanne McGowan, she's part of higher ed in Purdue. So you get to know a lot of people, how they are applying BRM in those sectors. Manufacturing operations, so you have a lot of companies, including Johnson Controls and automotive sectors, embracing BRM. So this is at a high level of where you see the spread of BRMs. Again, this is not a complete list. This is based on the survey done with different geographies. We see this as a part of the section. So anybody have a question on this one in terms of what do you think is projecting? Do you see more on technology side, BRM being deployed more, or do you see it in other verticals? Any thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. This is telling us that non-technology companies are taking up a larger share and they feel that BRMs are really adding a lot of value to them. So that's the reason I think a lot of such companies are putting up BRMs in place.
Correct. And do you think that it is highly concentrated in the United States? I mean, I'm trying to talk with APAC, and I will also kind of give everyone a chance to reflect upon. I mean, Santosh, you have joined, you know what's happening around. How is the adoption within the APAC region that you see for BRMs, you know, from whatever verticals that you serve in terms of trade, compliance, and legal? What do you see as a trend happening within the APAC market?
So, I mean, as you all know that this trend has taken a birth in the United States, and they have definitely seen a lot of value with BRMs in place. And slowly what happened is this is getting into all corners of the world now, that BRMs are really adding a value, and then they really have a proper role to play. So this is slowly trickling down to all the other areas, especially in India. We are seeing a lot of push on having BRMs and implementing the practice of a BRM in our domain.
Okay, sure. Beatrice, I know that you focus on EMEA as well as on APAC. I'm very particular about APAC and Singapore markets. And Vamsi, you also being from Singapore, what's the kind of trend that you see? And you come from the mining industry. Share some perspectives around where do you see BRM taking shape in those markets?
So
yeah, starting off around 2017 or so, we didn't really have a mature business partnership organization per se, but I guess with the increased outsourcing and all, somewhere the technology organization recognized that they need to have a dedicated business partnership organization with teams of business analysts and planners supporting technology and be the bridge between technology and business. So they're setting it up, the processes aren't matured, they still veer away from business partnership into delivery at times, or sometimes they become the proxies of business themselves, trying to influence the demand or the requirements. But yeah, it's settling in. So yeah, that's the stage.
Yeah. Thanks,
To add one more point to what Vamshi was saying, I mean, I've seen a lot of companies now identifying India, and India, you can say Asia, as one of the regions for their IT hubs. Having said that, businesses around the globe are looking at India as an IT destination. Now they expect the BRMs also to be there in India, closer to the delivery, so that having a BRM closer to the business also on one side and having a BRM closer to the delivery on the other side, so that there is no leakage of communication between what they are speaking.
Yeah, thanks. Beatrice, you were about to say something.
Actually, I had a question, but now it slipped out of my mind. I think my question was to say, the other way to look at it is, do we see these trends coming from companies that are local or regional, or is it coming from more like from companies that are European or US based? I think.
I think from here, I think it's more about European and US based. Considering that there's a lot of participation today in terms of what I call as awareness and stuff like that. I need to know the geographical dispersion in terms of Asia. There's no demographic details that has been given in terms of how much of these are from US or Europe, but I can get that trend. But for me, looking at this, it looks to be more from US driven rather than even EMEA or Asia Pacific. Okay. There was a kind of a review said about percentage of projects with clear organizational ownership of value realization. So if you have done this BRMP, we talk about the 4 pillars of demand shaping, exploring, servicing, and value harvesting, right? So the focus of value realization, right? What percentage of the projects in a dollar value has realized the whole thing? And you see this, that as we start moving up the numbers, they start now quantifying value realization. So we had a lot of extensive discussion yesterday with one of the clients saying that we traditionally have not focused on value because today IT is being perceived as a cost center. Now I want to kind of throw this to the group here. How many of you see in your own organizations IT being more of a cost center as opposed to be a profit center, or kind of really focused on value dimension? So Jyoti, you have seen driving projects across both in India and Canada. What's been your perspective in terms of how IT's quotient towards value realization has always been?
Well, Canada, I'll say I don't have much of experience as of now. It's very new to me. And for BRM, I'm not seeing so much of, noise about it here.
Okay. No, but I'm asking from a value perspective, how much of times when, for example, Saksham, when we talked about doing projects and thing, how much of focus have been from an IT perspective towards value realization?
It's the trend which is now coming, but yes, a lot of things need to be invested before we actually start the value harvesting. Till now, it is more of a cost center. That's true.
Okay. Perfect. So this is another one which is interesting for BRMs. Roles in your business function you spend the most time engaging with in performing your BRM duties. Again, we all know that BRM is just not a role. It's more of a discipline and a capability that we are talking about. So irrespective of what role you've done, you can still play the role of a BRM. I want to get some perspectives from Kirsty. Kirsty is joining all the way from New Zealand. Thanks, Kirsty. It must be pretty late in the night. So give us a flavor of how is BRM perceived? And you are a business relationship manager within the New Zealand area. How do you see people expecting BRM? Is it coming as a dedicated role, or they kind of dual hatting in those regions, Kirsty?
Okay, well, the organisation I'm with, BRM's a very new function that's in its very early days. So we have a team of 3 dedicated BRMs. We're only really just getting to grips with what that means for the organisation at the moment. We go undergoing a significant transformation through the service integration.
Right.
And, so what I'm finding now, and I've only been in the role for 4 weeks, so I'm also just getting to grips with what the organisation is actually like.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my time has been spent with my business owners. I look after 3 specific parts of the business. I mean, I'm in a military organisation, so it's a little bit different to a lot of other organisations, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm spending a lot of time with our product owners. We're just, that's also a new concept for the organisation. So they're bringing on new product owners as well. So I'm spending time getting to know what they're doing and what they expect from us.
Right.
We're going to have a few problems because people don't quite understand what we're there for.
Yeah.
So we're going around the organisation doing a lot of education at the moment. So it's, yeah, ask me in 6 months' time.
Yeah, sure, Kirsty. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Kirsty has been known to me for a long period of time, and she used to be a part of the ITSM of New Zealand. I think she's still part of the ITSM New Zealand board. A great person. So thanks, Kirsty, for sharing that insight. So coming back to this graphic, project management, a lot of times people are now talking about moving from project-centric to product-centric approach. So the kind of people asking about agile teams, self-autonomous teams, how do you kind of overarching this stuff? So people in the project management states are kind of stepping up and say, I'll try to do the kind of the overarching umbrella of BRM, but I mean, it's a mix of project management, service management, and the rest of the roles. You know? This is just how people think that they spend most of the time from their duties perspective. In terms of maturity, in terms of business function capability maturity, there's still a lot of things between defined and managed, because a lot of companies and a lot of organizations are still struggling to get the basic things in place to create that awareness before we kind of look at the maturity being more optimized. So on the scale of 0 to 1 to 5, where we talk about ad hoc, order taker, service provider, trusted advisor, and a strategic partner. Most of the people are between that service provider thing and trying to elevate their level to trusted advisor. So most of the people we see is between defined and managed in the context of organizations that have maturity from the business relationship management. So I'm going to talk about global BRM trends and challenges. This comes as a report from a lot of people, including my favorite Paul Wilkinson. He has been doing a lot of research going around the world, doing business simulations and finding out the trends of what happened. But also there's a combination of information from McKinsey of what they see the IT business relationship is moving forward. The first thing that we have seen, and this comes back as IT's shortcoming, the biggest one is the operating model. So if you look at 33% are talking about weakness in the IT operating model. The way it is structured, run, and managed is not really helping people to go faster, and it's becoming a bottleneck. Okay. The next second part, which is a significant shortcoming from an IT perspective, it's a lack of clarity on IT's priorities. And I've had several conversations with CIOs who tell that we are clueless because suddenly the business partner comes with another project with priority, and we struggle because they are asking us to do it, and all our planned works goes to us unplanned. Do you see that happening within your business partners, where the IT's priorities is constantly being changed with your business partners?
Very much.
So what should you do? What should happen if you are having this part of an issue that the priorities are going to be changing across and you cannot focus on one thing at a time? If you are as part of the IT leadership team, what should be your focus? How can we address this burning problem?
Suresh,
Yeah.
Suresh, if I may, Beatrice speaking.
Sure.
I think my impression, my perception today is that the times where priority were set up for a year and would not move except for very few, I don't know, changes or acquisitions, this is long gone. The thing is that as an organization, IT needs to be much more flexible at reorienting the priorities at the same time as the business. I think the business priorities are changing fast.
Yeah.
And as an organization, we need to be able to do the same.
Yeah.
Not on everything probably, but at least we need to articulate what are the things that we have to prioritize and we should not change. Typically infrastructure projects, these ones we know are long, they take time and they are necessary for the rest, but there is an expectation to be much more agile and much more fast in changing the course of our boat. And in my company, you can especially see that with the arrival of those new proof of concept or innovation pilots that are here to disrupt everything. And I don't think we should see them as disruption. We should see them as the new norm. The business is expecting us to be faster at changing the course, and we need to take that into account in our strategy and our operating model.
Absolutely. I think that's spot on. First of all, we have to understand that we have to make ourselves relevant if we want to get shadow IT out of the place, right? And our business partners are asking us to run, and we have to run at a pace where we can accommodate to this one. So we have to step up our game, but also make focuses only when you deliver value to your business partner that IT or any function becomes relevant. So that's something that's a good thought to start thinking about it. IT rarely works as a partner with the business, but most executives believe it should. So this is a kind of a correspondence between the role as a partner, consultant, and supplier. The current rate in which people perceive as partners is about 27, whereas the organization or the business is expecting them at about 76%. I mean, that's the level of gap that we see where the IT should now play a role of more of a trusted advisor or a strategic partner going across beyond the scope of just doing things that have been asked to do, right? Which means, again, going back to the demand supply curve, are we stepping up our game to make sure that we are trying to provide more of an advisory role, which means our capability also have to improve. And we also have to make sure that it gives real-time value for the business to do it. So that's a kind of a challenge to do that. So what's been your experience? Is IT playing the role of a strategic partner with the business, or do you still see them at a level or service provider today, by and large?
Yeah, so Suresh, I just wanted to put my perspective. I'm just 4 months old into this role. But initially when we were there, I mean, it looked like we were more of a service partner, but we've taken a lot of steps post our training. I think you've come to train us. Post our training, we've done some quick steps, but now the conversation from what we are hearing from the business is slightly changing. They are asking us, what is the future for us? Right. Please come up with a plan. So this is a step, and we are taking this kind of a responsibility with two hands to prove them that, yeah, we are going to become a trusted advisor in the future if we are nailing this right.
Sure. No, I think this is excellent. And that's one of the reasons that our language has to change. Our focus on values has to change. Our focus is also to enable our business partners to come up to the speed. So what Kirsty is doing, I think that's a very important part when you start your journey map, because a lot of people do not know where to start. It's a good point for us to understand the perspective of a business partner and work through them to kind of elevate their thinking thought process. And we do talk about, whether they can become mature, but that's the part that we need to start to strive. Then it becomes much more about a partnership focus rather than just looking at, okay, you tell us what needs to be done and we will just execute as an order taker. Right? A great point, Santosh. Thanks for sharing that. Now, this is a very, very interesting slide for me. For me, as an IT, and I think because most of the people here are from the IT functions, I wanted to kind of throw this into part. IT and business executives don't see eye to eye on IT's priorities, especially on cost cutting. So this is very evident that the non-IT executives don't really care about cost cutting as and when what you're talking about IT executives. So can I say that there is a complete perception difference in terms of what IT has been producing dashboards in terms of operational efficiency, cost efficiency and all of those stuff, reducing the operating cost. Is it that adding value, or in our time we can call it as reducing value leakage? Is reducing value leakage equal to value creation, or what's your thought about it in terms of focusing on reducing IT costs, and the non-IT executives or the business partners don't see this value of costing being making a difference? What are some of the thoughts? Playing the devil's advocate. Go ahead.
Yeah, Suresh, if I may add something,
Sure.
I think actually this one is interesting to look at, because I would say if we were not reducing the IT costs, that's probably what the top management would expect from us. So I think what I read into this is that on the business side, they are expecting something else from us. But we are still gonna have to make sure that we reduce our cost.
Correct.
So the idea is how do you make sure that you keep doing it, but at the same time you start to get more value out of what you do.
Exactly.
And I think if I look at my company, we have been constantly for the past years reducing the cost, the operational cost of IT, and reusing the overall budget that we get to actually work on projects, to make our system evolve, to put space for innovation.
Yeah.
So the idea is, I think this is a given. We are still expected to to make sure that we use the money to the best we can, but then they don't ask us to come up with a shorter bill. They ask us to make sure that the money they give is actually being used to help the business.
Yeah.
That's the way I would read it.
Absolutely right. And I think it's very important for us to start perceiving this. Reducing IT cost is a part of our day-to-day job, but by that itself doesn't add value. We need to start looking at parallelly how we can position ourselves to creating more opportunities of value realization. So I think this was, for me, a good way to start reflect upon, hey, come on, what do you mean by that? It seems to be something different, something wrong. But you know what? If you kind of deep dive, Beatrice, you're absolutely right. That's how we need to start looking at. We have to go away from our traditional focus on just cost, but start to have this conversation, shifting that lingo from cost to a value conversation, right? And as we start to look at from an end-to-end value chain, then everything starts to make a lot more sense. Otherwise, you know what? It's going to be a little tough to run through this. Right. So let me. I think I picked up the wrong slides, but that's fine. So we have kind of done over a period of this a lot of engagements with financial services, with merchandising companies, with pharmaceutical companies, with automotive companies. We see a lot of trend happening across verticals, and I think that's a great way to start thinking about the BRM is not confined to a particular domain. It can cut across any domain that we see in terms of working through, right? I think these were some of the awards that thing I won, but I wanted to kind of start and opening this thing to people. And I think now probably it's a good time to start opening the floor to ask some questions. What do you think are some of the top challenges, in your own opinion, for the BRM journey?
Yeah, so I would like to pick this up. So, Suresh, what we've observed is businesses are so busy performing their day-to-day business operations. Now, they are asking us, how is our business changing? Can you please help us, let us know? And how is technology disrupting our business? Can you please let us know? These are the two things they have asked us.
Right.
Okay. So now it is becoming a huge challenge for us, because we as a technology organization are so oriented towards understanding the technology trends. Now, the question to us is also to understand how businesses are changing. For example, we know that today, I mean, going forward, we don't know how workplace is going to look like. It's going to be the millennials who are going to come up, and we even know there's a gig economy also going to come up. So these are the insights they are asking us. and the capability from our side as a delivery or as the IT function is only we know that how technology is evolving. So this aspect of it is something which is missing in us.
Sure. Good. What else do you think in your way of working on a BRM journey? What are some of the challenges that you see as a BRM to percolate it? And I'll throw one just as a part. A lot of people are struggling between tactical BRM to a strategic BRM. Do you see that as a challenge? That while our aspirational goal is to become strategic, many times the way our business partners involve you is very tactical in nature. Is that an area of concern for any of you?
Suraj, if I can contribute to this.
Sure.
Actually, this is always a question. The problem is that as a BRM, you have to be able to bring the conversation to the right level. And the problem is that very often you can only start to have this strategic discussion once the tactical problems are solved. Yeah. So it's actually a sort of a mindset or sort of a position that you adopt in the discussion. Yeah. So first of all, you have to clearly understand what the person in front of you is expecting, is looking for, is coming from, in order to be able to put this discussion at the right level. And you need to anticipate what are going to be the tactical questions that you need to get out of the way. That's the way I would say if you want to be able to have a strategic discussion. The other point I wanted to make, and then I promise I'm gonna stop talking afterwards, is in my company what we did is we have several levels of BRMs. We have BRMs that are more tactical. Those are more like the local ones, and they really act as a local point of contact, a local entry door to our IT organization. But we have the same organization on the HR. They also have local business partners on the HR side. That's how it's called in my company, that are playing this role. Local BRMs are really the point of entry for the local management. They are there to understand the tactical issues as well as bring a little bit of strategy in the picture. Right. Then we have another level of BRMs, which are more like the global functional ones that are organized by function, and their role in a sense is to have the strategic discussion. But you need to understand what are the implications on the tactical work of whatever strategic discussion you have. Otherwise you lose credibility.
Yeah, but then Beatrice, just on that question, well, you have so many layers of BRMs, right? That's great. But in an organization that is just embarking on a journey, right, on a BRM, first of all, they don't even want to have a formal BRM, right? They say, why do I need to have another separate headcount? Because first of all, they don't know the value, right? Let's be very upfront on this one. So what they would do is they would ask someone and say, hey, you know what, can you kind of dual hat something like the BRM, right? In the case that we don't have set up these layers, right, and they are struggling to kind of even formalize the role of the BRM, how would that play out? When you don't have the kind of breadth and depth that you talked about in terms of layers, so you can delegate the work, and you have some people only focusing on tactical things. That's all great. That comes over a period of maturity. An organization which is starting this journey, and if you don't start it in the right foot, it is going to die. So in those cases, how do you recommend to approach this whole thing? Like what Kirsty has been doing now. First time they're getting in to get people to understand the value of BRM and make sure that, it's not an overkill and stuff like that. What would be some of your recommendations to drive that part? Because you have inherently some constraints.
Yeah, so I think first of all, I would say dual hat for me is not really an issue, especially because you really have to think about it as a journey, right? Journey towards this goal. So I think at the beginning, it's very okay to have someone that has dual role, but you have to make sure that the person who is in this position is comfortable with switching roles depending on the discussion. And to be honest, there are a lot of people that are not necessarily comfortable with this. I can testify from internal experience. There are some people that are very comfortable comfortable to be playing dual roles. Depending on the person they're going to be talking to, they're going to be able to adapt and shift the discussion. But by essence, you need to have someone that is very clear on what he can bring and that is able to articulate it. But it's gonna take time. It's a step-by-step approach. That's the first element. Second element, I would not necessarily have a dedicated BRM organization in a smaller company. Very often, the BRM has been being done for the past. In the past, it was done by the CIO that was doing that towards the CEO. The thing is that you have to put the name, or you have to put the definition behind what this person is doing, and through this, you're going to be able to advance the BRM philosophy internally, both on the IT side in my case and on the business side. But this is also valid for HR. It's also valid for any kind of support functions that are not directly in the business, but that are going to help the business go where they want to go.
Excellent. So much. I think there's a great start of thought process. So I'm going to open the floor now for any questions, comments, anything that you want to ask the people here in terms of your BRM journey or anything for that matter, because I think now is the time for us to start opening people. We've just started this conversation, but I think we have all of those people. And there's one question I'm going to ask to the people who have just been trained on BRMP. And from before you started the journey of BRMP, and after you have started completing your BRMP certification, now what has been your mindset? What were some of your takeaways that you think that you can put into practice from what you acquired as part of knowledge? So I would definitely appreciate each and every one to spend a minute or so to share your perspectives of what were some of the takeaways, because that will tell us, is the BRM body of knowledge still relevant? Is it making sense? Because we are feeding back to the knowledge commission on some things. So I want to talk about the newly acquired BRMPs and all of the people who recently completed BRMPs to share their perspective.
Hi, Suresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Santosh.
Yeah. So from my perspective, Suresh, when we joined this prior to the training, we felt that are we any different from what IT is currently doing? That was a question which was popping in our mind. So sometimes we even stepped into their roles, and then we got beaten up slightly. So this training had actually given us a clarity as to what is that we are supposed to do and what is that we are not supposed to do.
Right.
And where is that how we have to position ourselves is what we have learned from this training. And it was really an eye-opener for us. This training has helped us define our role for ourselves.
Perfect. Nilima, you were supposed to...
Yeah, I really agree with whatever Santosh is saying right now. And, this training has actually helped me personally to have a lot of confidence when you're talking to your business partners. And we as RMs, we have to make IT relevant to business, right? In that transition, there are a lot of trust we have to gain as an RM from the business, that we also can understand the terminologies, and we are here to help them not to overtake their roles or their positions in there. So in that way, it really helped me, and definitely. From the order taker to strategic partner, thinking in that way, it actually shows the way we talk right now, and the terminology which even we use in our team meetings, in the BRM team meetings which we have, is much more, makes a lot of sense and a lot of difference from the time we joined in right now. So we understand what business talks, and we are trying to fit in their shoes as well. Yeah. So that is a key takeaway.
Excellent. So I think that's what I would now stop talking. I want people to just ask if you have any questions for us in terms of anything that you can ask, because I want to make this more interactive. We are left with about another 15 minutes time. Let's make.
Suresh, I have a quick question on the BRM, making the team more strategically focused. We understand that, to have the strategic focus, we have to be aware of the situations and the things, and we need to have that knowledge of what's the technology coming up and things like that. but how we can actually be more focused and make relevant to those ideas. You know, we are bombarded with a lot of technologies which are coming in, and not necessarily every individual is, you know, can pick up them fast.
Correct.
How you know, we have to inculcate those also as a BRM. So how do we do that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I'll first try to attempt things, and I will open it up for Beatrice and other people to just comment on that. Now, the first thing that I wanted to first tell you is, as the technology is evolving and emerging, it is changing at a very rapid pace, right? Think about the infrastructure space itself, where we used to have production support, and now they are talking about site reliability engineering. They started with waterfall, agile, now they are talking about DevOps. Within DevOps itself, there is so much around the CI/CD pipeline with Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, and other stuff, right? So first of all, I think as BRMs, in my opinion, you should have some fundamentals very clear, which means you need to know what is DevOps, what is site reliability engineering, what happens, what is the basics of IoT, what is AI, machine learning. At a high level, fundamentals has to be very clear. And some of the use case scenarios, in my opinion, use case scenarios pertaining to your verticals, right? That is also very important. And also understanding the overall breadth is more important rather than depth. As a BRM, definitely it adds value when you have the basic fundamentals very strong, but also are able to look at a breadth level. You don't need to go into the depth of things, because that's not expected out of it. Because if you want to have a conversation with your delivery team, your infrastructure team, or your application development team, you should know what you're talking about. That level is what is needed, but not the intricacies of that, because you already have an expert or a subject matter expert within the delivery arm who's actually doing it. In fact, yesterday we were having the same conversation with their leaders, app dev, infrastructure, everyone, and they said the same thing. It's very important not to be bogged that we have to pick up technology there, but it helps. But most importantly, I think there is a perception difference of telling that these guys think that, you know, oh, these guys don't know technology, then how can they deliver value? And we say that we have a better understanding of the customer thought process, and they cannot do that. And that's where the tussle really begins, Nilima. We are not together as one team to face our business partner. And yesterday, this was the same discussion that popped up. We try to battle across each other to see whether we are competitors, but actually it defeats that purpose, because once you say that we are together in this ecosystem, then our thought process of helping each other, understanding it, is much more meaningful. That's my immediate thought around that particular space.
Yeah. Thank you, Suresh.
Very
Okay.
insightful.
Any other questions?
I think one of the big challenges we're facing at the moment is that there are multiple groups within the IT or our IT structure who believe they're the voice of the customer.
Yeah.
So customers are ending up with 5 different people from the IT branch rolling up to them, and they're saying, well, you know, this is why you need so many people, because you're sending 5 people to ask us the same questions. So the challenge we're having as BRMs in the organisation is saying, well, let us be that interface. So there's a little bit of ownership issues that we have to get over. So if anyone's got any suggestions on how to get through those ownership issues, I'd be really interested to hear them.
I think I'll start and I'll allow everyone to kind of chip in. The first one, I think, if you look at the BRM, there is a need for an orchestrator. So in this case, that we have 5 little different people who are gaining this transactional service from the dealings that they do, be it a ticket resolution or an application rollout. We need to understand these have to kind of roll it up to an orchestrator. So there could be some feedback loops across these divisions, but they all have to roll up to one person who's orchestrating across the value chain. Now, that is the part of the problem. Everybody thinks that they are closer to the client and they want to make an impression. But from a client perspective, and I'm having the same problem in the Manila telecom engagement I have, they have 6 different numbers within service desk to call. Now, if I was a customer, and I'm trying to talk with someone in that particular organization, I get annoyed because I have to call 6 different things. I don't know who is going to be managing internal. So we are actually now coming up with a single number calling with all the subsidiary units together as part of IT, because for the customer or the business partner, this is just a black box, right? We don't want to have so many layers to do that. We have to kind of internally clean up and say, you know what, let's not have too many cooks there. Let's probably put a formal structure at a value stream level, and then decide who will be doing the orchestrated role, who will be doing the tactical role is in looking at things. So in my opinion, it's also to do with the structuring of how you organize those people within that particular value chain or value stream.
Yeah, no, that's good good advice. We what we're doing next week is sitting down and writing some use cases so that we can use those to go out and explain to the different groups within a branch that, you know, we're not trying to take their roles away from them. We are just trying to orchestrate it so that the right people are talking to the business groups at the right time. Hopefully that's going to work.
And it's right, Kirsty, because they have a sense of feeling that someone is trying to take care of, take my roles off. And there's a feeling of insecurity that comes in.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, that is understandable. And we are seeing this tussle everywhere between the delivery teams and the business partners, delivery teams and the BRMs and all of those stuff. So I think we need to acknowledge that everybody has that. And we need to look at working as a partner rather than just saying that we are a competitor, we know more about things. So that doesn't work. So we need to be a little sensitive with people's emotions, and then it plays it well in the way to do that. Great question. Any other questions?
Suresh, as you know, I represent slightly smaller a pie in this entire discussion. That is the manufacturing sector.
Yeah.
The word or the term digital transformation is thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
Because many of the old economy companies are still, they still haven't understood the level of technology that is basically IT and related IoT or AI or machine learning. How their overall business. Okay. Certain industries remain unchanged for the past.
You need to be a little louder. You need to be a little louder.
Can you hear me now better?
Yeah.
Sorry, I think the mouthpiece was a little farther. Okay, so when it comes to these activities of digital transformation, okay, where do you think the BRMs stand over there? Like, how can in an old economy company where IT is seen as nothing more than a tool, okay, they're not even seen as partners, enablers or a tool, okay. So in that case, what is the role of the BRM over there?
Great question. Beatrice, you want to take that? I'll give the typical one. Beatrice, you are able to hear us?
Yeah, I don't know. Hello. Yeah, sorry. I don't know what's happening, but I hear a lot of disruption on the line.
I think probably might have been that line. Yeah.
So I didn't get the question actually.
Just a minute. So what I was telling.
Now I hear you.
Yeah. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. What I was telling is that the question from TCV was they're into a manufacturing kind of a setup. It's an old school of thought where IT is not even considered as a partner, and they're looking at this as a tool or just something like an order taker role. So where does the role of BRM kind of emerge in this kind of an organization, right? Is it even worthwhile to emerge in this kind of an organization setup? So his challenge is to see how can BRM kind of make themselves relevant in such a kind of a company or such a kind of thought.
So I think my advice in that case would be you have to imagine that the BRM is kind of the sales guy of IT, right? But internally, so he doesn't necessarily have the same I would say expectations or objective as an external IT sales guy. He's the internal I would say you need to do it step by step. You probably need to go through a little bit of a step of a consultant, internal consultant, that is able to identify a few key opportunities that today maybe are not served, that IT could actually help. And I think by a few success cases like this, you will deliver value and you will change the way the business sees you.
Perfect. Good. So we're going to the last part. So if you can just mute yourself. I think there's some background noise. We need to mute while. So I'm going to kind of throw it. I know that we probably have 5 minutes of time. So I wanted to make sure that we get the maximum of this particular session. So we talked a lot about siloed culture, absence of clear understanding of business strategy and all of this stuff. We start to still think about demand shaping being a problem. We see understanding relationship maturity levels has been a problem because we think that we do a good job at a trusted advisor level, whereas a business partner think that, oh, you know what, you probably are a service provider, if not an order taker. And we have this us and them mindset. We say IT and the business. Oh, come on, we have to converge. We need to kind of focus as one team to kind of run through this. We cannot run this as in the way say that I am better than you, app is better than infra and stuff like that, right? There's a lot of value leakage that is happening around where we are not paying heed to things and we have limited visibility on this whole stuff, right? Pretty much, I think the one that I had this was the actual slide that I wanted to have. But are you able to see my screen still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I will probably kind of leave that with a note on resources before we kind of tell this is the kind of the final one. What I really kind of want you to think about is there are a lot of resources that are available. Are you able to see this one, the BRM online portal?
No, not yet.
I'm just checking, I'll just see the desktop. So you're able to see my screen. So I would definitely recommend you to be signing up for the BRM membership. So you have a lot of webinars that gets listed down here that you can attend. There's a whole lot of resources under Business Relationship Management Institute. There is a whole lot of upcoming webinars and events. They are free to attend. I would definitely recommend you to kind of post your attend these webinars. Sometimes they're not very good in terms of doing it, but I would say that we can get started. So my request to all of you, because we are on kind of the top of the hour, is to get, if you could just suggest us, if this kind of a webinars could help you to gain some perspectives. Do you have any specific topic you want to cover, that we can actually do this as a recurring thing? So I want to get the last 3-4 minutes to get your perspectives of what we should do going forward for it to be beneficial for you in terms of as an engaging the community and where we can add a lot of value to this whole conversation.
Yeah, Suresh, I have one point here. Like when you were talking about orchestrator, okay, I mean, we see that an account team really matters when it comes to a BRM as a role. So can we have these kind of webinars where you can help us out in understanding how do we conduct these and what are the main points which we'll have to emphasize, so that it will be really helpful, because you have the flavor of BRMs across the globe. Yeah. So if you can add that value to us, it will be very insightful for us.
Definitely. We'll take that out, and Suresh Sitaraman will note down all this part to do that. Good. That we'll put that into our backlog. Any other thoughts, people who have attended this session? Any questions of what would be of interest for further webinars or areas that you think will be useful?
I think this webinar actually helping us a lot. Like I'm feeling that I'm not alone in this journey now. So thank you for this session, and we're expecting more such webinars. And another thing which being new into this BRM journey, I would like to have some of the list of organizations region-wise, maybe which are into this BRM profiles, and that
This
would
is
help
a good
us.
question that you asked, Jyoti. If you come down, if you go back in the BRM Institute, the first page, if you go down, and it has got those names. And these are the good starting point for you to look at. These are globally kind of listed BRM patrons, right? So which means that obviously those people here are getting that. And I'm not going to name people, and few people here are part of some of these organizations, right? And we are seeing that trend cascading from the US and the rest of the regions. This is exactly what we need to do. We need to look at something that is already available, branded, and then we take care of that in our local regions. I mean, local entities within the different countries. And I think that's a place to start with.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Any other questions?
I was just saying, I think it's been really valuable to get together with other BRMs in the same region. So yeah, I'd love to see it carry on.
Perfect, Kirsty. I think thanks for joining us at the late hour of the evenings, and we'll try to focus on getting some insights. So we'll give you a kind of a quick feedback survey post the session. We really want your insights to say which areas we can kind of focus, what should be the frequency of this webinars, and whom do you want to kind of do that. We'll be more than happy to help you. Yeah?
Sure.
So thanks a lot. Sorry, someone was speaking. We didn't hear them well.
No. I'm good.
Okay.
Carry on.
So thanks everyone for your time. We really appreciate your time here, and we are so much excited about the BRM week. And there's a lot of webinars being done across. And a last thing is that if you want to submit something for a storyteller for Boston and Amsterdam, please do that. Then you get an opportunity to go there and speak and present in those events. We will be there both in Boston and Amsterdam, and we cannot wait to see more participation from the APAC region, right? With that, I definitely thank each and every one. We have spent that 1 hour of valuable time. We hope we, as part of this community, are adding value to that, and we will be more than happy to continue these conversations across. Okay?
Thanks, Suresh.
Thank you so much, guys.
Take care.
Bye.